Hey guys, welcome back. Hope recess was pretty good. Okay, here we go. I left the table with a messy Wolverine taken apart. And now let's put it back together. So if you're already going to put a different spring in, you can just change this one out with another one, or whatever you need to do. So here we go. Let's put it back together. First, unsure if anybody messed with their table settings, so make sure that the air seal nozzle is on there. Tappet plate is attached. Then also the spring for the tappet plate. Okay, you can check the gears. I already know that they are shimmed and correctly installed, but if you leave your workstation, who knows if someone put something in there and took out shims. So if you want, you can check that. Also, make sure that, let's see if you can see it, yeah. That the trigger contacts, you're able to touch both of them. If you're shooting a lot, the plastic can heat up for all wire harnesses and it'll spread out a little. So you can either just bend them in or swap it out with the new complete wire harness. So it's good to go. Let's pop this in. Okay, here comes the piston. Make sure that the piston, I don't know if you guys have encountered this before, but if the piston rides on the rail like that, that's good. But if you have it off ever so slightly, it looks good from the outside, but on the inside, it's not lined up. And it'll just go and break stuff. So make sure when you're putting it back together that it's basically rail, and goes together correctly. Let's go ahead and put this together. Okay, it's on there. Make sure that also the cylinder, the corners for the cylinder of the gearbox are lined up. If you have it offset, it's not going to go together, so when you put everything together and you press down, it's not going to fit, and you're going to be looking at thinking it's the gears sunk at, but it's most likely a small little problem like that. So, okay, piston's in, spring goes in, spring guide goes in. Okay, get ready. Now, this part rides on the slot on the top of the gearbox, on the inside. And then this part, which you're curious about, rides on this spot. I don't know if it makes sense, but you have the receiver button on the top slot, which you can put in later. And then the blowback button, or track, trolley, slider, shuttlecock, I don't know what you want to call it, but this is the part that slides out. Say if you don't want the blowback, you can put that there, call it a day. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it back in. Blowback's super cool. And drop the gearbox on top. Line up, spring guide, a little post, drop it in. Okay, as you notice, the spring's kind of bulging. Got to make sure that this doesn't fall off. Oh. Okay. Yeah, I got it. Okay, there you go. Sorry about that. Little jitters. Also, press on the piston. See, slide back and somewhat smooth. You're going to feel the spring tension, but if you can't press back, that means you did something bad. And also, press on here. Make sure that the spring is attached, and you're good to go. Notice how this is on there. I'm just going to go ahead and put the screws back in. You notice there's a slight play in the motor housing, the gearbox. That's fine, because once you have the grip in there and pressed up against the body, it kind of all holds it together. It's not going to really break or fall off, so slight wiggle is fine. If you want, if you're super serious about removing any play, you can put a piece of electrical tape right there, and then when you tighten it down, it won't wiggle, but don't really need to. But okay, drop this part back in. This little part prevents dirt and crud going into your gun when you're crawling around. Slide this part back on. Slide that part forward. Slide the wires under. And then just tap them like so. And remember, put the wires between the cylinder area and this part. Not like that. That's bad. Don't do that. Put it like that. Otherwise, you'll get pinched on the body and cause problems. So, you want to make sure it can move freely, out of the way. Make sure that the gears are lined up like so. Also match up the pieces. Tighten that down, make sure it can move freely. Okay, that's good. Triangle part like so. This is the safety. When you pull a trigger, it's not working because it hits that part. So I've seen people where they break that part off from pulling the trigger that hard. Safety's there for a reason. Go ahead and make sure that the gear teeth are lined up here and on here. So then when you turn it, you have a safe, semi, and full auto functions. Well, not in that order, but you know. Okay, now I'm ready to go ahead and drop this into the body. Remember, the wires in this area and up here, and you're good to go. So before I put anything back together, let me double check, make sure I'm not missing anything for the gearbox. I have that. It's springy, the piston's springy. I have the selector parts. Okay, here we go. Slide it in there. Oh wait, nope, you can put that in later, don't worry. Okay, it's good. And see how it would hit if you had the wires on the outside. So I'm just going to go ahead and wiggle. It's always good to wiggle, make sure that the wires aren't pinched. If you can see that, then that's a good sign. So go ahead and grab the little selector cam part, and the thicker flat parts interact with the selector plates. So drop that in. Notice flat, 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 flat. And for me, I always keep it on safe when I assemble and disassemble, just so it's like I can run through it really quick without, like, if it's off a little, just have it. Safety first. Delta or no delta, this weapon's hot. Go ahead and tighten that down. And be careful, do not slip and pinch your fingers here. I see that many times. So let's go ahead and tighten that a little more, once more. Oh, see? Okay, there you go, that's good. I'm gonna go ahead and add, oh yeah, one more note. Here is your motor adjustment tool. It's a 2mm Allen. It's a little set screw. Just go ahead and tighten that to raise or lower the motor. Sorry if I didn't specify that earlier. Use the large Phillips. Pop it on the bottom. good to go. Okay, now we just go ahead and put in the outer barrel and inner barrel and all those parts. So first, grab your inner barrel, slide it through, and see how it hits the selector or the adjuster arm. I'll make sure it's all the way back. Now, you might come across a problem like this, where you have the nozzle sticking too far out. You can either press it manually, but if you press down instead of just back, you will break it. So what you can do is I use a LiPo or any other battery just to pull it back just a smidge. Just tap the trigger. So as you notice, the piston's back a little further, tappet plate gets pulled back, Echo 1 LiPo. So now you can slide forward. Oh, look how easy that was without worrying about braking stuff. And now what I'm going to do is just so the outer barrel isn't flexed or anything, I'm just going to go ahead, slide this on, and then grab the large pin with the notch on the right side of the gun. I'm just going to go ahead and first slide that forward a little. Come on. Okay. Make sure that the notch is facing up. Slide it in. I just put that there so I don't have the outer barrel swaying and causing stress on the hop-up unit. So now I can okay, there. Slide it back. So now when I rest the outer barrel on there, it's not going to move or cause any damage. Where are that small Phillips? Okay. Go ahead and add the 2 small Phillips on either side of the hop-up unit to that sliding part of plastic that you left in the body. Okay, slide it forward, just so you don't have your hop-up on all the way, and when you first shoot it, you will have a jam, just because too much hop. It's usually too much hop of anything, and it's bad. Drop this part in, kind of press it, and this probably will fall out. You can either put like a little piece of electrical tape or whatever, just hold in place, but it's not super needed. Pop this part in. Small little Phillips. Use a bigger handle, just get more leverage. Go ahead and tighten that down. Okay, now, since I didn't really tap this pin in, I'm going to go ahead and take it out, just so I can, it's just a temporary hold for that step I was working on. Okay, now that I have it forward, let me notice how it's springy. So I'm going to do is I line it up. If you're curious, there's also the groove here, basically sliding it in like that. And then this little set screw locks into that hole. So what I'm doing is basically pulling it back, kind of press the stock up against my body so I can look down the barrel and see how the groove is. And just kind of wiggle it, press it in. If you have to beat on it with a hammer, you're doing something wrong. So go ahead and take your time. Basically flush, sticking out a little here. Final test is make sure that this pin goes through. Yes, it does. That's good. And you may be curious, oh, what do I do about this? How do I install this? Well, I'll get to that. Go ahead and tighten down. There you go. For the fake little charging handle bolt, drop it in, slide it forward. And what you want to do is, I use a little Loctite, or if you want, you can put a little Teflon tape on there to hold the threads in. If you notice, it has like little buttons, so it has more surface area to hold it in place. But whatever you think is needed. If you're going to take this apart a lot, probably won't need a Loctite, but if you're going to like set it and forget it, yes, it is good to use a Loctite. So go ahead and add the 2 little Phillips screws. Just hand tighten. Oh. Okay, now I have that. Oh, and let me just go ahead and take this apart so you guys can see inside. This is kind of like a slip kind of technology. So you have the hook for the charging handle that's going forward, and then if there's too much resistance, it has a tendency to pop off because there's a little spring and a hook. If you take this apart, you'll see. So if you want to deactivate it, you have this access hole. You can use a flathead to press up against here to push it out of the way to unhook it. So that's just a little quick note. Slide it back, get some room. Line it up. There's also 2 little holes on the front, little pins. Help line it up and hold it in place, and just 1 screw on the top. Remember, before and after all games, make sure to check, no matter what gun it is, pistol, rifle, shotgun, rocket launcher, anti-tank, or even a landing vehicle. Make sure all your parts are tight and secure. You know, you don't want to be running out there, oh, my stock falls off, you know. Take care of your stuff. Okay, if you notice it's not going forward all the way, don't worry, it's because of the piston is back just a little. So let me go ahead and put the rest of this together. Remember this little piece of metal. That part slides in like so. Oh wait, before I do that, let me wiggle this back. Grab this pin. Just tap it in. Slide it back. Look, you see how the little spring part is. Slide it back. Slide this cap back. Press this little lever back. It's always a super tight fit. So gently use a pair of pliers just for more leverage, not to pry it or break it. Just be slow and steady and gentle. There you go. Stubborn. Go ahead and tighten that part. Okay. Now for this, looks like it falls apart and breaks, but it's not. It's just kind of held together. So make sure the parts are flush. You hear like a click. You need a flush, and a spring, like so. Pivot on the front. Remember, lift this part up, drop down, bam, done. Okay. Charging handles forward, pin with the spring, slide that forward, line it up, make sure it goes all the way forward. Receiver button, slide it forward and it goes back, and it's held in place. If you want, you can put like a little drop of super glue or Loctite, just hold it in place. Sometimes people like hit this button super hard to take this off, like an ejector seat. I don't know why, but you just want to go ahead and, I don't know, your own preference. Just a tip. Press this down. Sometimes if it's caught back, you can do is press on here and notice how this comes back a little and then it sticks out a little more. Now it's good. Okay, there you go. Just wiggle it. But now, since I can't leave it with the piston back because that wears down the spring, might as well shoot it just a couple times. So plug in the battery. Make sure you shoot in a safe direction. So, and another battery I like to use is the SOCOM Gear stick LiPo for the Echo 1 XCR. I believe it's LiPo number 8. It fits right in here. Fortunately, the Echo 1 LiPo is a smidge too big. This is like for M4 buffer tubes, but for like a 9.6 10.8 or even a 12 volt will be like right here. But the stick LiPo is just perfect size. It's really good. Switches to full auto. And it's all the way forward. And you can even wiggle this. See that the piston's as far as it can be on the outside, and you're good to go. I'm Brian from Echo 1 USA, and thanks for watching. Bam!